Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today we get back into the controversy of is Windows better or Mac better, but not per se. This one is more towards laptops. So I'd recently bought an Asus ROG GL702VI. It's a Strix, and Asus makes like great motherboards. They're amazing. I like to buy Asus everything for assembling computers. However, their laptops are very questionable. So I got a laptop. It's got GTX 1080. The hope there is that when I do video recording on it, it can actually cap 60 frames per second, which my iMac can't do because it's running at a 5K display and it doesn't have a good enough GPU to actually display all of that and nonetheless capture it. Now, the CPU in this was a quad-core 2.8 gigahertz 7700K by Intel. Pretty good. My MacBook Pro, when I bought, it's a 13-inch. The guy said there's no difference between 13-inch and 15-inch MacBooks, which is actually a complete lie. 13 inches are limited to dual core, and 15s only have quad cores, which essentially means double the processing speed. It's not exactly how it works, and if something doesn't do hyper-threading or multi-threading, then it doesn't actually apply at all to have more cores, because then it just cares about the one core you have. But in the case of music production, just about all DAWs can actually use hyper-threading or multi-threading, and so can Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects and such things like that. Rendering technologies love multi-threading up to an extent. After 32 cores or so, you actually don't get much use out of it anymore. So with my MacBook Pro, it served me well. If I put a project on my iMac on here, like a big project, like one of the nicer songs I've made, it can't even play it. It's just pure distortion. There's no musical content in heavier parts that have lots of serums running and stuff like that. The Windows laptop can actually do it to a point where it's musical, but still lots of distortion, a little too much for a $3,000 laptop. That's in Canadian. So, I'm going to actually return this, and I'm just going to throw in the extra money. Go for a 15-inch MacBook Pro, not maxed out, but probably having the best processor and maybe like a 1 terabyte SSD. I'll have to see. Now, the thing that sucks about that is it's going to have 4 Thunderbolt 3s and headphone jack. Now, I'm going to have to dongle the shit out of it, but the point is that this MacBook will run amazing because Macs just work. On my Windows laptop, I plug in my Complete Audio 6. Now, granted, it's more optimized for Mac than it is Windows, but that doesn't matter because when I partition Windows on my iMac and go to play it, the software Windows is capable of handling this Complete Audio 6 with no audio dropouts. When plugging it into my laptop and doing 9 hours of troubleshooting and fixing and talking to Asus, whose customer support have no fucking clue what they're talking about and just ask you to send it into their technical team, even though they are the technical team, so I don't know why they can't just explain fixes or suggest things to someone who clearly knows what they're talking about. Instead, they're like, oh, okay, I understand, please send it in, and it doesn't help anyone. So I plug in my Complete Audio 6. The latency is running at about 2000 mu on average on the Complete Audio 6, which is kind of sad. I can mess with all the latency settings I want in the control panel. I disabled like every device, changed all power settings, did everything I possibly can, but there's some processes that are running things at like 7.6 milliseconds, which is very high. It should be under 1 millisecond for about everything. And when running latency tests, I was hitting on average 2000 mu, might jump up to 4000 mu. It was kind of ridiculous. There's a lot of latency, and I was getting crackles and pops just from listening to audio on YouTube for no reason. There's nothing overloading my CPU. It was at minimal heat. GPU's fine. Everything was fine. It just doesn't work for some reason, and I can't connect my audio interface to it. I hypothesize, and I'm almost certain that if I were to try a Steinberg UR22, which I actually had but sold to a friend because I wasn't using it, it would work probably just fine. However, most of the price in this laptop comes from the GTX 1080, which I can show on the screen now, followed by some gameplay from The Witcher where I can record it and run it on ultra graphics at about 100 frames per second, which the screen capturing limited to 60 frames per second. However, that's amazing because when I was inside of Bitwig Studio, I could record, I could monitor, I could see all of my meterings, and they were all running at 60 frames per second, no questions asked. Everything was smooth, liquid smooth. However, back to using Bitwig on Windows, that thing crashes a lot. You know, people, like, Bitwig does say it's optimized for Windows, Windows. And I was kind of doubting that a few times like this month. However, after using this laptop, now I know I was having issues with my latency and my audio interface, and that could cause problems. But on Mac, if I unplug my audio interface, it used to crash Bitwig. It would lock up and you'd have to force quit, which on Mac is no big deal. However, on my Windows laptop, like, nothing would happen, but Bitwig would just randomly lock up for no reason because of slight audio interface problems that were pretty minor. And then on Windows, of course, when something locks up, it's just dead. You have to, like, open Task Manager if that's possible. In the case of Windows, it's much easier. It's not like a full screen game that takes priority over everything. So you can open up Task Manager pretty easy. And my favorite is when you tell it to end the task of Bitwig and then it says it can't do that. And then you have to actually just turn off your computer for no reason, which is damaging to your hard drive and just risks hard drive corruption. So, like, what the fuck? So, this laptop was expensive. I'm going to have to send it back and get, thankfully, I can get a refund. I bought it from Best Buy, and they'll just take it back and give me my money back, including on warranties and stuff as well. However, if this would have been a Razer Blade Pro and I would have experienced this problem, I would have been super screwed because they would not have given me anything back. Now, again, I think it might have just been this audio interface, and it might just be this laptop. I brought Razer Blade Pro into this, but they're branded as a music production laptop for Windows, so I sure as hell hope that they're not hitting over, on average, 2,000 mu every few milliseconds. Now, with that said, I think I definitely prefer MacBooks for laptops 100%. I don't think I'm ever going to buy a Windows laptop again unless I have the money to just throw at it. And by that time I do that, hopefully Razer will have their shit together and actually add some warranty, as their hardware is getting much better. However, they're still not standing behind their product. That's why I didn't buy it, because they don't offer that much warranty support. And I'm not really into that in case something like this happens, because it's a lot of money to spend and not get any compensation when they fuck you over. So I'm going to be going for a nice fat 4 Thunderbolt MacBook. I find a lot of the times when I'm using my MacBook outside of... I have my iMac at home. That thing is got a USB hub. It's always got all the USB stuff plugged into it. I'm never taking USBs out to plug in my MacBook or anything like that. The times when I actually have to plug USBs into my MacBook at school, where I produce music, is fairly rare. I just end up plugging a Thunderbolt into the side, a Thunderbolt 2 or something. So in that case, if I want to use the Thunderbolt 2s at school using like the Apollo 8 to 16 channel UAD stuff, I'm going to have to definitely have some sort of dongle that has Thunderbolt 2, and that's fine, because again, I don't do that very often. I just use my headphones and plug it into the side of the computer. It's if I wanted to record directly on my laptop or make use of the Genelex or something. So there will be that dongle problem. However, with the 4 Thunderbolts, if I decide to have a really high-end gaming experience, an external GPU will be possible using a Windows partition, because I will have Thunderbolt 3. If I ever decide to get a new iMac Pro, that will also have Thunderbolt 3, which means I can actually do target display again, because between an iMac 27-inch 5K and this MacBook 13-inch late 2015 model, you absolutely cannot do target display, because I guess 5K is too much data transfer for a Thunderbolt 2 cable when using a MacBook to an iMac at 5K 27 inches. Oops. So that possibility will be there. Another thing to note with MacBooks is that when you open them and download your DAW and you download your driver softwares for your interface and you go to start to try to record, it just fucking works and there's no questions asked. You're not sitting there like, oh my god, what's happening? And on Windows, whenever you try to do anything that isn't download Steam and play games, you're basically always like, oh my god, what's happening? And then it takes a long time to troubleshoot things you shouldn't have to troubleshoot in the first place, because it's supposed to just work. Something else I'd like to point out is audio hijack and loopback run for Windows. For Mac, and Windows only has the ASIO voice meter, which is supposed to be something like that. Yeah, ASIO voice meter is garbage, and loopback and Rogue Amoeba stuff is amazing. The routings I can make are amazing. Macs let you force quit any software you want at any given time. The boot up time, even on a Fusion drive, which is more of deep storage than like a fast processing SSD, the boot time on my iMac is just as fast as a Windows running SSD, which is still kind of weird. So imagine if I get a MacBook Pro with an SSD, it will have near instant startup times. Alongside of the High Sierra's superb data transferring and the new way it stores files, mixed with an SSD, will give you the fastest transfer rates anyone has ever seen, or fastest copying rates of large files, much faster than a Windows running a high-end SSD. There's AirDrop, there's Mac Mail, there's crazy compatibility with, like, you know, all of the other people who make music. This MacBook is completely rock solid. This laptop, this Windows laptop, which is way bigger, it's 17 inches, is really heavy for 17 inches because it's got a lot of bottom heaviness to it because it's trying to fit a lot of stuff in there. This thing is very thin, and you can add 2 inches onto it, and you make barely any weight change in it. It's just a little bigger. It's, like I said, it feels like it's built out of frickin' steel or something. You can't, there's no screen flex, like, at all on the actual screen itself right here. There's zero press on the keyboard. There's nothing wrong with it. It's built to live forever, and Macs do live for a long time. And laptops, unlike built PCs, you want to have last for a long time because laptops are expensive and you can't exactly just fix them because everything's fucking soldered to each other. Likewise, with an iMac, everything's soldered to each other, but at least all the parts work. So that's what I have to say. I tried a Windows laptop, used it, I could run Witcher, super great. It could do a lot of the things I wanted to do just fine, minus the extremely loud fan noise. It's like louder than I keep my speakers on average when I'm producing music at home, or in a studio even, which is insane. And it just can't connect to an interface that well. Like, it's got interface compatibility issues, and I don't know if connecting it to a different interface would completely solve that problem. So, kind of screwed there. But I'm going to return this, go with that new high-end MacBook, and maybe we'll talk about that in a few months, because now I've wasted money on this, kind of. I've lost a little bit of money here, so I'm going to have to wait a few more months and just get a really nice MacBook in the summer, and hopefully... And with that thing, I don't even have to say hopefully it works well, because I know it's going to work well. After seeing this Windows laptop, there's no way it's not going to be much better. Am I going to be able to play AAA games at 100 frames per second on max settings? Probably not. But that doesn't matter. I'm just trying to make music and do videos. So, yeah. Again, this is a video where I shit on Windows and go, good job, Mac. Good work. So, sorry if that offends people. Again, I build PCs all the time. I love building PCs. I probably will build a PC, especially for gaming. As far as making music and producing music on, there's just undeniable evidence behind that. Like, right now, you go buy the most expensive 15-inch MacBook Pro, and you're gonna have a fucking great time being compatible with everything and everything working as soon as you plug it in. And all you're going to have to do is worry about making music, and it's amazing. There's not a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff you need to do to make a MacBook work in this sort of way. iMacs versus PCs, especially built PCs, is a totally different story. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about mobile devices right now. So maybe a Razer Blade would have been the equivalent of a MacBook. I don't know. I didn't buy it because that's a lot of money to just juggle for, like, literally no return policy. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. See ya.